What's up, people? I am back for another video. Sorry I didn't do a video yesterday. Shit happened yesterday, and I'll be honest, I was just not in the mood to do a video yesterday. So, the Three from Hell video it'll probably be on Sunday. Yeah, it'll probably be on Sunday, or I'll just move it to next Tuesday, one of the two. But it'll be later in the week. But today, I am reviewing Nighthawks, the movie I was supposed to review last week. This movie is very underrated. It's a very, old school, detective slash, anti-terrorist movie. But basically, the premise is De Silva, played by Stallone, and his partner Matthew Fox, played by Billy D. Williams. At the height of their careers, because this was, for Billy D., this was, a year after Empire. This was 81 when this came out. And Stallone had just did the first... he did the first two, because Rocky 2 was 79. So, yeah, he did the first two Rockies. So, pretty up early in his career. And this was a year before First Blood. And this was just an awesome movie. And then Rutger Hauer was the villain. Hamer Reinhardt, who's this terrorist, basically, who bombs a bunch of places in Paris and has, an MO. And De Silva, initially, he's just, this beat cop. Not beat cop, but he just does, undercover and, just basic raids. He's your basic cop, and he's thrown in this terrorist situation when he's put in this terrorist, basically task force, if we're going to call it a modern equivalent, led by Hartman, who's this British officer, because he believes Wolfgar, that's Reinhardt's alias, is leading an attack on New York, which he is. And basically De Silva has to stop him. And De Silva initially, clashes with Hartman because Hartman basically is saying, you gotta kill these people. You can't treat terrorists like your basic criminal. So, it's a decent story. It's an old 70s, it's not 70s, but it feels like a 70s style. But I really like it. It's fun. It's simple. It's kind of short. The music's pretty fun. I think fucking Rutger Hauer as Wolfgar is great. He's a straight up villain. Very simple. He just wants to liberate, but that's it. Nothing more than that. They don't go into his own backstory. I just you just watch movies like these, and you're just makes me miss just simple villains like that. I'm not saying you can't have your villains with a maybe more complicated backstory and all that, but it is sometimes nice just to have a villain who's just bad and that's it. And it's like a cat and mouse kind of thing, and they have to try to stop Wolfgar because Wolfgar eventually gets information on them, and after later in the movie they foil his plan. He tries to confront De Silva's wife and kill her because, he learns there's a scene when one of his associates basically gets information on, all the cops, including De Silva, or Deke, which is his nickname. This is a really fun movie. I definitely recommend it. Yeah, it's not your typical Stallone movie, but it's definitely, it's a pretty solid one. I think it's a fun one. I think you'll like it. It's short. Rutger Hauer, in my opinion, kills it as the villain. I think he's absolutely great. And just, yeah. And there's a thing he does early that actually, a thing called, a payoff, that we used to get in movies. So, yeah. So I'll talk about that a little later. But, yeah. Tomorrow, I'm definitely can't wait to do this. I've been wanting to do these movies for a while, and since, we basically have done all the big slasher franchises at this point, or at least most of them. There's probably, maybe a couple, I can probably think of that I haven't done yet, but majority of the main ones I've done. So finally, we're going to get started on the Hellraiser movies, and it's been a while since I've, at least maybe 3 or 4 years since I've watched Hellraiser, the original, so I can't wait to watch that again tomorrow. And yeah, man, original Hellraiser is great. Just Pinhead as a character is so interesting. It is sad just what that franchise has gone through. Just a side note before I get into Nighthawks. It's so sad because it's the character like Pinhead, and there's so much they could do with it, and they just after like the second movie, I really would say they 3 I had fun with as like a dumb fun horror, but yeah, like I guess maybe after that one, just what I hear about the later movies, and I'm gonna watch those for the first time. It basically, from what I'm hearing, after 3, it goes to absolute shit, and it's sad because it's like Pinhead is such a cool character. Doug Bradley, the way he plays him is so good. It's just so yeah. But I'll talk about that more tomorrow. But let's get started on Nighthawks. I guess before I get started, Nighthawks, I would definitely give like a 8 out of 10. It's a pretty fun movie. Really love the music. I actually think the music works. Even though it works because it makes me feel like I'm watching like those old school like detective shows, just with the terrorism thing thrown in there. But let's get started. But film opens up. De Silva and and Fox. I'll just call it Fox. It sounds better. De Silva and Fox bust these 2 muggers. There's a scene because De Silva poses as like a woman, who's walking alone, and because it's like New York in the 80s, so it's in the early 80s, so it's perfect. So yeah, they end up busting these criminals, and then we cut to December 31st in London, where we see Wolfgar plant a bomb and blow it up. And his MO is he blows up a building and he calls like into like either some news organization, I think it's some news thing, so he can like get his stories. His big thing is he wants to basically become like infamous. He wants to put his face on the news and all that. Then it cuts to De Silva, and I like it. Sorry, I'm like jumbling my words there. I really do like how it, even though it does kind of like at least initially kind of go back and forth from we're in in America, and then it kind of cuts back to what's going on with Wolfgar. It's still cohesive. It doesn't feel like I'm just watching 2 different things at once. They do manage to make it work. So, because yeah, we cut to De Silva and Fox do a bust, and this was a very well done scene because there's a scene like Fox like basically like just freaks the fuck out and almost kills one of the people he buzzed. Like he had like a shotgun over his face, and he had to have De Silva had to calm him down. It's a very well done scene. And then we get a scene between De Silva and his wife, which was kind of a fine scene. She's not really a character. You see her a couple of times in the movie, but she's fine. But then, so I'm gonna stop saying. But then we cut back to Wolfgar at a party because his MO is he flirts with like women, so he can kind of find a place to lay low and stuff. But before he basically someone supposed to meet him there. Unfortunately leads like police after him. He ends up killing his friend and the cops after him. He then goes to Shaka, who's his associate. Tell him he has to lay low and go to do stuff in New York. So he ends up going to New York, and before he does that, he does facial reconstruction because it's like a different actor who plays Wolfgar initially, and then when it gets to New York, that's where we get Rucker Hauer coming in. He then goes to America while De Silva and Fox are put on ATAC, which is like this anti-terrorist task force headed by Hartman, who's like, you see him earlier in the movie, who's after Wolfgar the whole time. And basically, De Silva and Fox are picked because they mention in a line that they're, because this was like, it's 80, and this is the early 80s. slash like feels like a 70s movie still though. So it's like you're still in that like post like Vietnam era. So yeah, Vietnam War is just like referenced like all the time in a lot of movies. So yeah, because of their service in Vietnam. And De Silva like has like in Hartman clash because Hartman basically telling him you gotta like be ruthless against terrorists and you gotta kill them. And De Silva is like he didn't come here to become a killer. But it's like, and he's also like just he doesn't want to learn all this bullshit and stuff. While this is going on, Wolfgar, sorry, I don't know why I went blank there. Wolfgar, flirts with this girl, finds a place to lay low, but unfortunately, she ends up finding like its weaponry because he does like there's one scene he does like a almost like a warning bomb where he just blows up a building that's like empty, just so he can like set a warning that like the next one is gonna be big and it's gonna be an actual like target. So then I'm just gonna kind of jump ahead, and De Silva and Fox have an opportunity to take down Wolfgar because they end up finding the girl he killed because she ends up finding his weaponry and stuff. He even says the same line. I don't remember the line exactly at this moment, but he says like a line that basically that calls back to what he said earlier to his friend before he killed him. So yeah, they end up finding him at a bar, or not a bar, at a club. We have a chase. Fox ends up getting his face cut because De Silva hesitates to shoot De Silva when he has an opportunity. And that's one of the things Hartman said to De Silva is you gotta shoot to kill, even if it means a hostage getting hurt. And it's like, and I'll admit, like for a little movie like this, it does ask an interesting question. Like, do you take the shot? You know, because it ends up costing him. Yeah, Fox ends up getting hurt. You know, he ends up getting his face cut. And there's even a scene where he like admonishes De Silva because he's like, "You should have taken the shot." And it's like, I kind of agree because it's like I wouldn't be in this hospital bed. Like if that's probably how he's feeling at that moment. It's like I wouldn't be in this hospital right now if you had just taken the shot. So Shaka, his Wolfgar's associate, shows up in America and tells Wolfgar to get ready for his next plan, which is they're going to take over the United Nations like dinner party thing. So Shaka ends up going there and killing Hartman. And Wolfgar ends up taking a tram hostage full of basically a couple of like officials who are supposed to be at this event, and ends up killing one of them. Like kills like the wife of one of them, and lets the baby go to kind of show like I'm not this evil guy, so he can put that on the news. So he then orders his other demand is that De Silva shows up with a bus to take him out of like the country, and at that point, that's where he was gonna quote unquote, not quote unquote, but like at this point, he wanted to kill De Silva at that point, but that was the plan. So they do that, and things go as planned. But De Silva has a backup plan. He has an audio tape of Hartman talking about Shaka, which he ends up playing before they load the hostages on the bus. Ends up sniping her, and it's like cold. Like she just gets sniped like quick. And then shootout between him and Wolfgar. Wolfgar ends up crashing the bus into the water, but ends up getting away. And at that point, De Silva realized, because there's a scene, I should have mentioned this, or I guess I kind of did mention it earlier, where Shaka gets information like on all the cops who are on the terrorist organization or the anti-terrorist organization, including De Silva, which has his like wife and stuff. So, and like a little payoff from earlier, where De Silva dresses a woman. He dressed as Irene to lure Wolfgar to the house, and they even have like almost like a horror-ish scene. He pulls out a knife. He's just stalking her. He pulls like the phone off the 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 um the thing. So like, yeah, he pulls the telephone off the thing so he can like basically so no one can call in, and sneaks up on Irene. But then it turns out to be De Silva, and De Silva shoots him to death. Like pretty just, and then movie ends just kind of ends it. He just gets on the porch and then sits by the body. That's it. These movies like back then just kind of did just end. Like there was no like not every movie had like a little thing afterwards. They just bad guy's dead, movie's over. you know. But it's a fun little movie. It's very simple, kind of quick. I like the dynamic between De Silva and Fox. I kind of wish we got a little bit more of that. I would not have minded if this got a sequel, but to be fair, the timing of this is probably why. I mean, Rutger Hauer ended up doing fucking Blade Runner the next year. You had Stallone about to do Rambo, and I think also Rocky 3 was also in 82. So like he was getting ready, like he was on the rise. That's probably why this movie just never got a sequel. But it was a fun one, man. Very underrated. Stallone as a kind of like a detective, and he plays like a different kind of character compared to his other ones. So I definitely recommend it. So 8 out of 10. I would definitely watch it again if I'm in the mood. I thought Rutger Hauer's Wolfgar was great. He was just simple bad guy, nothing more, nothing less, you know? It was a nice little interesting, like almost like detective movie / cop movie mixed with like a terrorist movie a little bit, you know? So, I like it, so. But yeah, I can't wait to do Hellraiser tomorrow. It's been a bit since I've watched it, but that original Hellraiser is such an interesting concept. And the Hellbound Heart book, which is a nice, like, because that's like the original book written by Clive Barker before, we got the movie, is a nice, like, almost alternate take. I would not have minded if we got that as a movie, too. But yeah, what we got is also great. Pinhead is just, that iconic character. Doug Bradley played him with, like, such presence. Just, it is, like, iconic. And it's just sad that, like, what ends up happening to that franchise, because it's like, he's such an interesting character. You would think there could be so much they could do with him, and they just don't. But yeah, I'll talk about that more tomorrow. Can't wait to watch it again. The gore is there, the imagery, just those hooks, the Cenobites, all that stuff is great. Kirsty as a character, and I think that's the other problem I always felt like with that franchise. They never went back to Kirsty as a character. I know in the books and comics and stuff they do, but I never understood why in the movies they did. I know the actress comes back in one of the later movies, but she's not even Kirsty. She's like a different character from what I heard. I think I talked to somebody who had watched that one, and she says like, yeah, she came back, but she's not Kirsty. And so it's like, what? It was like weird, because you could have had she could have been like your, fucking Laurie Strode of the franchise. You need that final girl to carry, and I thought she did a good job in those first 2 movies, and then she's just gone for the rest of them. So it's weird. Anyway, I'll talk about that more tomorrow. But definitely watch Nighthawks. It's an interesting little movie. It's not your typical Stallone movie, but it's pretty fun. And just Stallone and fucking Billy D. Williams working together in the early 80s in a movie. I mean, what can go wrong? But and Rutger Hauer's the villain. What can go fucking wrong? But as usual, take a hit. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow with my Hellraiser review. But fuck Joe Biden. Talk to y'all tomorrow.